Hey guys! So this is the part of the video where I would normally apologize for being late again. Instead of doing that, I think it might be easier if I just admit to myself that I'm probably never going to be able to stick to a once-a-week release schedule. So that being said, in an effort to commit to quality, I'm going to try and do a video once every 2 weeks instead of 1 week. So in this week's episode, I'd like to return to a topic that we touched on in the first episode, which I highly recommend you watch. Seriously, if you haven't seen it, there's a link below in the description. Click away. I'll wait. Did you do it yet? Okay, so I'm struggling to maintain patience here, so just pause the video and come back to me when you're done. The topic of the first video, in case you didn't watch it, was dating. Before we get into that though, I'd like to give you a recap of my life this past week. I was shooting a really kick-ass segment for the video that was supposed to be released this week, but I stupidly deleted it thinking that it would have been automatically uploaded to iCloud. It wasn't. So that being said, I'm going to be reshooting the segment this week, but I'm kind of glad because I wasn't super happy with how the first cut turned out anyway. And I'm sure those of you who saw the last episode probably know that this isn't exactly helping much right now. I don't know if you can tell, but I definitely recommend Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild to anybody with a Wii U or a Nintendo Switch. Although, who am I kidding? I mean, if you've got a Switch, you most definitely already own Breath of the Wild. If you don't have a Wii U and you don't have a Switch either, then you don't really have an excuse. Get down to Target or GameStop like right now and pick one up. It's awesome. So for those of you who actually watched the first episode, and I know who you are, we talked about how it's okay to be single and how it allows you to focus on what's important to you. It means that you don't have to settle. You know, you're not settling for something that you may or may not really want. Okay, so this time around, I want to talk about what happens when you are dating somebody and you start to catch the feels. I personally will decide to go steady with a girl after a handful of dates if she's fun to be around and if it seems like a healthy and reasonable pairing. It starts out subtle, you're just trying to see where things go, but it hits you like a ton of bricks. As an example, I remember this trip that I took with a girl that I met from work. Before you get on me about dipping my pen in company ink, we were both working for a huge company, and she worked so far on the other side of the building, it was like she was in a different area code. Anyway, we had only been dating for about 2 months at this point, but I didn't want things to get stale, so I decided to kind of mix it up. I planned a weekend getaway trip to the beach. We drive down there, we do hit a couple of snags, but that's a story for another video. The last night of the trip, we find ourselves walking through the surf on the shores of South Padre Island, holding hands, full moon hanging low in the sky. It was easily the most romantic moment of my life. And it was at that point that I found myself falling for this girl. And so I do what a lot of people do, and I begin to freak out. And in that moment of panic, I said something I shouldn't have, and I'll never forget it. I said, "This is absolutely amazing, and no matter what happens, I will never forget this." I didn't realize exactly how it sounded until it was too late, and she took it as, well, he's gonna dump me when we get back to town. I somehow managed to save the trip from being a total disaster, but nevertheless, it was a red flag that she would never forget, and it would eventually cause us to break up later on when I was unfortunately a lot more emotionally invested in the relationship. So that's my typical knee-jerk reaction to the feels. When I fall for a girl, I start saying and doing things kind of stupid, out of fear of commitment. Some people have an opposite knee-jerk reaction where as soon as they start to catch the feels, they start making broad statements of commitment to prove it. There's a girl that I'm friends with. She fell in love with some guy online after 2 or 3 weeks and just flew up there and she's living there now. So neither one of these examples of a knee-jerk reaction is right or wrong necessarily, it's just how some of us cope with the feels. The lesson to be learned here is, you know how when you're visiting places where cliff jumping is available and you see signs in certain areas saying look before you leap? I've got a spin on this that I like to call look before you love. The idea is that when you start to catch the feels, you take a step back and you think about your actions. Maybe don't open your mouth and ruin a perfect moment because you're scared of long-term commitment. Maybe don't permanently change your address to somewhere halfway across the country with some person that you met 3 weeks ago. I mean, don't get me wrong, catching the feels feels is perfectly natural, and in most cases, it's a good thing. The whole idea of dating somebody is that eventually the two of you will find a higher level of emotional connection. Just remember, when you catch the feels, don't react without taking a step back and looking at your situation from a non-biased perspective. And sure, that might actually be difficult given the fact that you just caught the feels, so feel free to reach out to a non-biased friend who you can trust. Whatever you do, just remember, look before you love. And that wraps up today's episode. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Feel free to check out my other videos or leave comments below. This has been Jake Griggsby. Keep it real, YouTube.